All right, time for our final talk of the night, and as a video game enthusiast, I am very excited for this one. So we have a return speaker for our final talk of June. We have Althea Atherton. Thank you. Is a repeat Near Nite speaker. They previously spoke with us last year about the importance of public transportation and New Mexico's public transportation infrastructure, which you may have seen, especially with a lot of developments recently. They are a full-time parent of two little ones. One is brand new, so congratulations, and an avid fan and advocate of public transportation and neighborhood organizing. You could find them on Blue Sky at, is it Allie Mae? Allie Mae, which I know is awkward to say, but I'm sure they could give it to you, or you go on their Nite website and find their socials. So please, let's welcome to the stage.
Thank you. I'm going to try to figure out where to stand here. Oh, I need my handy, this thing. All right. Well, if you thought I was here to talk to you about animals crossing highways, crossing roads, you're not the only one, and I'm so sorry to disappoint. I'm here to talk about Animal Crossing, the video game by Nintendo. So I'm going to make the case today that Tom Nook is problematic at best. Okay, so for those of you who do not know what I'm talking about, Animal Crossing is a game in the Nintendo universe. It is the 8th Animal Crossing game as New Horizons. That's the one I'm talking about today. It launched in March 2020, which may be a memorable time for you all. A lot of people were at home. A lot of people were not going out and doing things, so people leaned in really, really hard on their Animal Crossing islands, and it was like all of a sudden this overnight success. So the premise is you go to a deserted island. You develop the island and you make friends with these like anthropomorphic creatures. It's really adorable. And here's Nate having a kind of breaking the fourth wall moment saying, they say the island is just a game and everything we say or do, it's just to amuse someone else. And that's basically right. So this is Cumulus. This has been my island home since December of 2020. I was a little bit late on the Animal Crossing bandwagon because I found out that my siblings were playing Animal Crossing without me for like months. And so I went and I bought a Switch and I bought Animal Crossing and I was like, look. And they were almost over it, but they amused me for a few months, and I just never stopped playing. So this is how Cumulus looked yesterday. I have different villagers and different players that also live on the island as well. It sounds like a very innocent game, but there's a lot of capitalism culture underpinning the whole thing. There is a lot of colonial normative colonialism that goes on, and some pretty questionable ethics as well. So the game opens. You meet these like adorable raccoons, Timmy and Tommy, and they say, "Hey, we're so excited! You're gonna come live on this island. It's gonna be great." And you're like, oh, you get to pick an island like layout. You get to go there, and then all of a sudden you meet this guy, Tom Nook, and Tom Nook is introduced as the president of this like kind of company that sends people to these deserted islands, and he's a problem. He says he's kind of a travel agent. He says he's taking players to these uninhabited lands. He has some really misleading business practices. He controls a lot of the processes that happen on Animal Crossing, which is just not good democracy. And according to fandom.com, in actually 2002, he was a finalist for one of the most notorious Nintendo villains, even though he was not intended to be written as a villain. Just everyone kind of got the underpinning message of this game. So I think it's important to talk about two types of colonialism. One type is settler colonialism. That's when you go to a land, or one goes to a land, and they say, hey, I should inhabit this land. I should make a dominant culture. I should take over. And it's, folks maybe have already been living there. They may, be saying, oh, not really. But it's settler colonialism. Extractive colonialism is when you go to a land for the purpose of extracting its resources, right? If you're going to take its wood, its minerals, its fish, right? That's extractive colonialism. And Tom Nook is an expert at both. So he says, oh, this was a deserted island, it's just, it's all fine, we're just gonna, make a new home here. But then you meet this character, Pascal, who very clearly is a local. He's not a villager here. He drops, like, the most amazing stoner wisdom. Like, DJs better watch it. If they keep dropping the bass, they're going to break it, and we're all going to have to pay, right? So he lived here, right? That doesn't sound uninhabited to me. Another thing that he does is he has this whole, like, process of paying you back for your labor. He calls them Nook miles. And if you get a certain number of Nook miles, you get these tickets where you can go to a randomly generated island that is completely from scratch. You can cut down every tree. In fact, you're encouraged to cut down every tree. You're encouraged to take every mineral resource. You're encouraged to, like, fish everything out of there. And that's just, like, your reward for doing a good job. And it's all for island enrichment. He also takes you to this desert island. You get there, and then he's like, oh, by the way, there's a bell in this currency you've never even heard of. Bells, right? It sounds like something he just made up. In fact, on the expansion pack, there is a different currency, right? And it's clear that the user is not familiar with bells because they do not have any, right? This is all a very, very scary kind of prospect, right? He doesn't make any sense to Nate when he breaks the fourth wall either. He says, yeah, I'll buy your seashells so you can give me back my own money to pay off the house I'm selling to you. It doesn't make any sense. He doesn't work alone, too. This is Isabel. She gives these daily announcements, but it's very clear she's withholding some really valuable information in them. She tells you your island's rating and how to improve the score. I'm actually reading a book by Jerusalem Demsas right now that talks about, like, aesthetic zoning and, like, when people kind of impose their own aesthetic beliefs on zoning and how that holds back housing progress, right? It seems very similar to that. And she also interferes with the conflicts by telling residents that they have to dress a different way or talk differently. And then there's this whole system of island ordinances and the lack of transparency about these ordinances. So she makes these announcements. Sometimes they'll be useful. They'll be like, oh, hey, CJ, the guy who likes fish, he's around. Come sell your fish. And other times she's like, I peeled some fruit real good. Let me just tell the whole island about it, right? But we know she is getting weather reports because every once in a while she'll tell you, oh, hey, the weather report that you didn't know existed says that there's going to be a celestial event tonight. You're going to get shooting stars. Great that you told us about the shooting stars, but can't you just tell me when it rains and I don't have to water my plants anymore? She also will tell you what you have to do to make the island more aesthetically pleasing. And then there's this whole issue of zoning. So canonically, we know zoning must exist, at least in the villager's mind, right? They talk about how they have to get permits. Shino here even talks about pay to play. She says, oh, well, I could get the permit or I could pay the fine for the permit, right? So this is like, again, how the rich are able to kind of cut through some of these zoning regulations that the rest of us can't. And then Tom Nook says, oh, 10 inclines, that's just too many for my little island. You can't make more inclines. And then I don't think it is a very democratic process at all to have you pay money to change the laws. You have to pay 20,000 bells, which is not nothing in Animal Crossing world, to change the ordinances. And so you're like, okay, great. I'm going to be able to change the, I'm going to have mixed-use development. I'm going to have, like, high density. I'm going to have multifamily. This is going to be beautiful. No. You can say, oh, there should be more flowers here. The flowers should grow faster. Or you can say, oh, the stores should open early or later. Or they should give me more money. But you can't, like, actually do anything that impacts, like, your day-to-day life. There's also a system of housing discrimination in Animal Crossing, believe it or not. So this is Puddles. Puddles is great. She wanted to move to my island recently, and she went and she asked resident services, hey, can I move in? And they're like, no, it's the worst news. She's crying because resident services says there's no room to build a house, and she wouldn't be able to live without her house, right? And she's like, well, they did say I could negotiate with someone. I could just go up to them and say, this island ain't big enough for the two of us. So they're going to make her do all of that. Lo and behold, I create another character on my Nintendo Switch. And all of a sudden, woo, I got my own tent. I can move in, right? Because I'm a human. There's also some concerns about the flow of information in Animal Crossing New Horizons. These are recipes. You learn how to read the recipes, and then once you know a recipe, you can't tell anybody else that recipe unless you find a second copy of it. So you can't say, hey, I know how to build a flower crown. Let me tell you how to build this flower crown. You have to find another copy of it. They will sell you some of the recipes, but most of them are whispered. So here's Octavian giving me his pot recipe, just like millennia and millennia of people have been giving their family members pot recipes for generations. And then Timmy and Tommy are also in on this. They are the creatures who lured us to this island. Don't let these innocent faces fool you. They are in cahoots. They own Nook's Cranny, which is a retail store, and they incentivize the production of certain goods, kind of almost like our Defense Authorization Act in the United States, where we'll incentivize certain companies to say, hey, we need more missiles. Hey, we need more this. One day, I learned how to make jail bars. And then they wanted to buy all the jail bars. What are they doing? What are they doing? Why are they incentivizing that? Of all the things they could incentivize, flower crowns, sure, beautiful stones, whatever, but jail bars, that was uncomfortable. And then another issue, sorry, there's a lot of them. I even cut several issues out of this presentation. So there's also an issue of art integrity. There's fake art on this island. And Isabel knows that someone is selling the counterfeit. She even knows that they anchor on the North Shore. But instead of saying, oh, hey, you can't sell my fake art here, she's like, oh, hey, do you want to vend at my summer party on the fireworks day? Right? She's in cahoots. There's also a really uncomfortable relationship this game has with frogs. So this is Jeremiah. He and his 80 decibel fart are giving me his photo right here. That's the highest honor you can get when you're meeting another Animal Crossing character after you've leveled up your friendship over weeks. And then here's me catching a frog next to Jeremiah. Now this frog can be sold to the stores. It can be given as a gift. It is not treated as a sentient creature, but Jeremiah is. So that's a problem. And then there's this issue of controlling communication, where you get this phone. When you get there, they're like, oh, have you ever used a smartphone before? This is a smartphone. These people can call you. Tom Nook can call you. Timmy and Tommy can call you. This guy, Harvey, who lives on a local island, he can call you every once in a while. But you cannot place any outgoing calls. You can't say, hey, villager, I want to know where you are because I want to give you your daily present. No, you can't do that. So here is a graveyard of a bunch of different photos from different characters in Animal Crossing who have moved out from my island at various points. I cannot contact them. They are completely cut off from me once they are no longer on our island. You can kind of meet them again, but they won't remember you, and they won't remember who you are. They're introducing themselves as the first time. What is going on, says Snowboy. Well, it's time that we build a resistance. So Fang knows, first rule of building resistance is OPSEC, right? You want to make sure that you're in private and having private communications, using your Signal app, not planning certain things on Facebook, right? So one beautiful thing you need to do to have a successful resistance is you need to have a media presence. So we have an alt weekly on Cumulus called the C-Word C-Word. It is how we, get our news out. So here's their little headquarters. You can see them working to get, we need alt weeklies in particular, and alt weeklies that are not controlled by politicians, because those are the papers that are allowed to criticize the politicians. They are the ones that build their life on making sure people get the actual information they need. So build an alt weekly. You also can make designs. So this is one that says Nook is a crook. Honk if Nook is a crook. It was on a car. And then you can use that design in various points in your island. Here it is on the floor. It's on this storage container, and it's up there on the top as well. Also, publicly owned billionaires. You should embarrass anyone who is holding on to that much wealth. Should be embarrassed in public. They should not feel comfortable if they're holding on to this much wealth. We should not make their lives comfortable. So they should be publicly owned, as in made fun of. This is a protest that I made early in my Animal Crossing journey. It was a bread and roses protest, so you can kind of see down here, I didn't have a good picture of it, but you can kind of see I have a toaster and a rose. So it's like after the bread and roses strike of 1912 in Lawrence, Massachusetts, which is probably a talk for a future nerd night. And then there's these miners. So it says, what's mined is ours. So saying like, hey, we should have our mineral resources. You also can make like fashion accessories like dresses. This is an umbrella I made called, it says Wealth Hoarder with a picture of Tom Nook because he's controlling all the pieces here. And then you can also place those on your island as decorations. So this is actually a pretty recent screenshot from my island. And if the Nooks are trying to get you to sell them jail bars or they're trying to get you to, buy frogs or whatever, like you can put out protest signs that say Nook is a crook in front of them, and you can actually block access to the store so your visitors who come to your island can't go there today. You say, oh no, we're boycotting. Here's one I made about the frog issues. Where do the frogs go? When you give your frogs to the Nooks or you give your frog to CJ, where do they go? So here's a little protest sign I made. On my island, I do not sell them. I catch and release. I release them all back into the water. Or I put them in daycare one time. I made froggy daycare. So there's tadpoles and frogs at school. And then you can also make extra players who can not pay off their loans. So, for example, my husband, he started Animal Crossing. He found out he got hit with a bill, and he's like, nope, this isn't for me. I do not want to play this game. This is too close to real life. So I took over his character, and I made an insectarium out of his house. So he has kind of like an alt museum. I also, who here has heard of Charlie and the MTA? Charlie and the MTA, oh, it's a, right, yeah, Nat. Okay, so it is a famous protest song from Boston. It was when the MBTA was considering having an exit fare on their transit system. There was a protest song about what would happen if a guy didn't have his fare. Did he ever return? No, he never returned. His fate is still unlearned. He lies forever 'neath the street of Boston. He's the man who never returned. So I made the man who never returned, Charlie, who lives on my island, and he runs, here's the herpetology connection, the Turtle Run transit lines. So Turtle is my public transit system, and it runs underneath all the different houses, and they're all piloted or, driven by snapping turtles, because they like a snappy service. So that's my transit agency that lives on my island. Here you can see one of their vehicles with froggy chairs. Sometimes they look more like trains. This one was kind of fun, though. You also, at times, get an opportunity to invent a catchphrase. So you can have a lot of fun with that. I use it mostly for unionization. So they just say, what do you need? Unionize? Like they just throw it out as a comment on a bunch of things. Solidarity forever, because your character limited. Capitalism unalives, because it's a game for children, so you can't say capitalism kills. You can say capitalism unalives. Fellow traveler. Nook is a crook. And then a cool thing, so say I teach Mac to say, hey, let's unionize. Sometimes these catchphrases are contagious and they teach each other these catchphrases. So here's, he's saying let's unionize to me. Then Gruff comes over to my house and he's like, oh, not a worry in the world, the whole day to free and play, let's unionize. If only, right? Right? He's trying to unionize with me, right? Here are the signs. You also can tell him about your favorite hobbies. So here's me talking about anarchy. Scowling at politicians, one of my real life hobbies, so I put it in Animal Crossing. City council heckling, why I usually am found on Zoom and not in chambers, because you have to be quiet in the chambers, but you do not have to be quiet at home. And then for food, you can say that your favorite food is the blood of billionaires. You know, there's no rules about that. You just can't swear. You can scowl at, the sketchy art dealer Red, or you can make a cease and desist order, and then you can place the cease and desist order on a fence in front of his land so nobody can get to the boat. So if they won't protect you from fake art, you can protect yourself. And then you also have to be listening, because you might find some allies in unusual places. This is Isabel. After one of those summer events, she is real tired. She's been out on her feet all day. In fact, she works 24 hours a day. She does not get breaks in this world. She doesn't even have a house. So I have her amiibo card. So I made her a village home on the Animal Crossing extension pack, Happy Home Paradise. And I scanned in some friends for her to plot a resistance. So here's the underground. You can see they all have their masks on, so they can be their little disguises, so they're not going to be found. You also get an opportunity with the expansion pack to have a restaurant and have some clothing stores, so you can take a celebratory photo of the fall of capitalism, and you can say, wow, you found a way to make the fall of capitalism better. But at the end of the day, this game is not coded for resistance education. It is coded for teaching, having kids and adults together, make these island paradise homes for these anthropomorphic friends of theirs. So as I taught Bubbles to say one day when I was feeling kind of down, resistance is futile. I also watched a lot of Star Trek during the pandemic. And then I've just leaned in, and I still play Animal Crossing. I am not uncool. And this is my license or my passport. So you can see if you wanted to go to my island, I will warn you, right now my island is mostly designed by a 2-year-old. So there's a whole section of toilets and a whole room full of clocks. But he leans really hard in on the trains, which has been nice. And that is my talk. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about animal? Okay, I see one in the back. Yeah. So that's a great question. It's whether I think that people are going to, whether Nintendo is going to kind of go down this path that Tom Nook is actually evil, right, and problematic. Here's the thing. I've actually talked to a lot of people about this theory, or a fair number of people, and I've run into a lot of Nook apologists because they say, well, at least the loans are, free of interest, right? But you're not really like the first loan. You don't consent for that. It just is thrust upon you. You don't get, hey, do you want to go to this island for 49,000 bells? And then you don't have a chance to say no, and then the game ends, right? You're thrust into it. But that's a good question, especially because, it sounds like it's been decades. I didn't get into Animal Crossing. I played a little bit of Pocket Camp, but I didn't really get into Animal Crossing until my siblings were doing it without me, and I had to get in on it because I'm the youngest. Yeah. Any other questions? Greg. How do I think AI is going to affect Animal Crossing? So this actually comes up in the Animal Crossing Facebook groups. There's often debates about generative AI and whether we think they should use that for the villagers. And I think no. I think, first of all, I'm just really skeptical of generative AI. I think AI is really good for, hey, is it likely that this rare fish is in this, sub-ocean picture? But it's really bad for, hey, I need to write an email to my coworker, or hey, I need this health information about my kid. The things that I see that it recommends when I'm Googling stuff about my kid, it's just terrifying. So I think I enjoy seeing all the different like built-in responses, especially when you've seen a lot of repeats, but then you get one you haven't seen before. It just feels really good, and I feel like it would lose that magic. You know, I feel like the characters are written so well that I wouldn't trust AI to really get. One thing I didn't talk about, for those of you who don't play Animal Crossing, is that the villagers fit in 8 different archetypes of personalities and their responses to things and their like kind of ways that they talk and their habits, how early they wake up in the morning. That's all based on these personality types. And I feel like I wouldn't trust AI to really, really get it. Not yet. And maybe not ever. Yeah? How many people play? I think millions. I think it's really popular. I'll be honest, I don't really play with like strangers. I play with like a few of my friends who still play or like restart their islands. I've been just going with my same island since 2020 though. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of people using it as a teaching tool, like using it to like, you know, kind of explain like different design techniques and stuff like that. And I know, like, I get targeted ads. I've certainly never tried it because I like went the normal, typical route with through my insurance and everything. But I get ads all the time for like do group therapy on Animal Crossing, where it's like you play Animal Crossing and you do group therapy like on Zoom, I guess. I don't know. I didn't click the link, but it thinks that I want that and I don't. Yeah. But yeah, I also think, you know, some people like, you know, use them because the screenshots are kind of easy to develop, especially if you use some of the like design additive like games like Happy Home Paradise. It's kind of easy to like make images that way. And so I see them as like characters and memes a lot, where people will write their own text outside of the game and just like use that to generate interesting screenshots with different like items and things like that. Any other questions? Leslie? Oh, I like Puddles a lot, is my favorite villager. She's the one who I just had moved back into my island because I missed her. She's a peppy frog who wants to be a pop star, and she just like embodies everything I love. I also really like Brewster. Brewster is a barista who has a little cool shop in the museum. And you can get coffee, and if he really likes you, he'll actually put pigeon milk in your coffee, which is kind of gross but also endearing, because it's like, oh, I think of you as my kin. I'm gonna feed you my crop milk. It's just adorable. Yeah. Yeah. Do I have any what? Crushes? Grudges. Oh. You know, I had this one who was a snooty type named Snooty, and she didn't last very long on my island because it's like usually I like the snooty ones because they're like you know, a little bit like, oh, hooty tooty, whatever. And usually I like that, but with her, I think because her name matched her personality type, I just can't get into it. Do you have any? Well, you should tell me after if you have. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. How do you, off the island? So there's 2 ways to get a villager off an island. Every 2 weeks, one will ask you, hey, I'm thinking about going away. And you can say, no, please stay. Or you can say, okay, bye. And you can kind of choose then. The other way is if you have a visitor who comes to a tent on your site, which you can either have happen randomly in the game, or you can use what's called amiibo cards and invite them 3 times. Then they'll ask to move in. And then if you use an amiibo, you actually can choose who gets usurped. So you can say, no, I'm done with Snooty, which is exactly what happened. I'm done with Snooty, she's gone, bye. Or if it's like a random villager that showed up on your island, the game will select for you. If you close the game without saving before you close the dialog box, it'll check someone different. If you do not do that, you are stuck with that character, and you can either say yes or no. Yeah. Yes. How many what? Do I what with Rossetti? Oh, so you actually don't piss off Rossetti so much in New Horizons because it auto saves for you. Rossetti is this character who gets really mad, and he's very infamous from the early games, and you do run into him in New Horizons drinking coffee, and you can get like a little statue of him. But because the game auto saves, it just says like, oh, don't close the game when the little circle is doing a little circle thing. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think about it too often, but it does help me go to sleep when I need to stop scrolling other things. So if I am like having one of those days where I can't put down the internet, I will either consciously switch to video games, or my husband will gently encourage me to switch to video games. And then I'll play a combination of Animal Crossing and Pokemon Snap. And the Pokemon Snap puts me to sleep pretty good because it's like a photo safari, so you just kind of ride along and then you stop taking pictures and you're like out. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, but during like the lockdowny phases of the pandemic, I thought about it like all the time because I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't employed. I didn't have kids yet. There's a lot of Animal Crossing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I know a lot of the stuff that I presented, other people have put together too. There's a lot of debates that happen. If you go into like the Facebook groups for people, like the Animal Crossing New Horizons community and like things like that, or like back when I liked Twitter, I had a Twitter and would follow lots of other Twitters about it. And so, people kind of have their own theories, but the is Tom Nook a saint or a sinner kind of dichotomy comes up a lot. I think most people fall somewhere in the middle. He's pretty problematic. At least he doesn't give us interest on those loans. So I can just have my husband's character and Charlie just sit out. Yeah. Any others? All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you so much to Althea, and thank you to all three of our talks for tonight.